In today's video, I'm going to be a little more personal today. In previous videos, we've given you a lot of tips and a lot of advice to help you become healthier and make healthier choices about what you eat. Today, I want to tell you a little bit about my story and where I come from. When I was growing up, I ate like everybody else did. I ate a combination of real food, like home cooked meals, and a lot of processed food. I remember when I was in high school, I had a diet lemonade, a bag of carrots, a granola bar, and a Twinkie. So that kind of gives you an idea of what I was eating. I don't know how I remember that, but I do. When I went to restaurants, I got the typical piece of meat, starch, and a vegetable, which is pretty common at most chain restaurants. I wasn't terribly interested in nutrition or athletics. I played hockey in high school. I was okay, wasn't an all star. Didn't play in college, only up until high school. So I wasn't a tremendous athlete. I wasn't skinny. I wasn't fat. I didn't really have any issues. I think at that time I weighed like 140 or 145. I can't remember because back then I didn't even weigh myself. I didn't even have a scale. I didn't know what macronutrients were. I didn't know anything about carbohydrates. I didn't know how to read a label on a box. So it's hard to believe how little I knew back then about physiology and nutrition. Maybe that was a good thing because at one point in my life I knew too much and it actually hurt me. When I was 18 or 19, I think I bought my first fitness program. It was called Combat Conditioning by Matt Fury. I don't even know if it's sold anymore, but it was this big booklet, black and white. It was really old school. And it was a bunch of calisthenic exercises that you could do. I didn't know anything about fitness or programming or strength training, nothing. And I just started doing calisthenics in my basement. I really liked it. I was getting stronger. I got a little more toned. But I wasn't obsessed about it. I didn't even have a gym membership. I just remember doing exercises for 45 minutes in my basement before I went to school. In my third year of college, that's when I really became interested in nutrition. I remember reading a book called Superfoods. I think it was by a guy named Dr. Platt. Stephen Platt, maybe. I think that was his name. And it was 12 or 13 of the healthiest foods you could possibly eat. I remember getting it as a Christmas present, and that was really the beginning of my journey. So I intended to become a really healthy eater. I decided to cut out red meat when I was 20 years old. That was my New Year's resolution. And so I did. So I remember having a bowl of chili. I think like the last day of that year, thinking that I would never have red meat again. And even to this day, I still don't eat a lot of red meat. I think I've only had a pound of it the last 5 years, if that. So I was making some healthy changes at first, and I started eating more fish, and I started to pack my meals, and started to use apps to track my macronutrients and all that. And some things that I had never done before. I remember got a food scale when I was 20 years old. The first food scale I had ever bought in my life, and it told me exactly how much food I was eating. Um, so again, it was almost like too much knowledge. I never weighed my food before. Now I was weighing everything. It just became this obsession. I had to know the exact gram that was on that scale. That it was that year that I bought a bike. I started riding my bike in the basement, and then I discovered triathlon at the end of my third year of college. And I was really excited about it. I'd never heard of this sport before. It's like triathlon. Wow. I think I'd heard of it, but I never even considered it. And I was just hooked on it. I just loved it so much. I loved reading about it. I loved watching videos about it. I loved training. I would ride my bike in the basement, then go run. And then at my school, the school I was going to, they opened the fitness center, a new fitness center, and I had a couple of lap pools in it. And so I started swimming. I started lifting weights. I hired my first personal trainer that year. His name was Jimmy. And I ended up becoming a personal trainer myself about a couple of years later. But I was just so enmeshed in health and fitness. And this was new for me. I had never been like this. I had always just been very casual about my health. So that third year, I became very regimented about what I ate. And it was really towards the end of that third year. And I had to plan every meal, I had to pack everything, I had eliminated almost all the processed food. that I was eating before. Those are not necessarily bad changes, but I was going too far and I started losing weight and people started to notice. I had some bleeding in my, I think it was my left eye, or maybe it was my right eye. I forget. I should know. But people started to say, make comments, and they said, "Are you okay?" And they were genuinely concerned. Like other coworkers and other family members, they would ask me questions. And I think, as I recall, I don't have the reports, but there was bleeding on my pituitary gland. I don't know what happened, but the bleeding subsided. But I had lost weight. I was always low on energy. Uh, it was just a struggle to get through the day. And I knew something was wrong, but I just kept doing what I was doing. And I don't think I realized how much energy I needed at that time. I was only 21, training for these triathlons. Who knows? Who knows how many calories I was burning each day? Probably less than what I estimated. At that same time, I got a job at Whole Foods Market. They had opened a new Whole Foods near my home. And so that only contributed or reinforced my obsession with health and nutrition because now I was surrounded by all this healthy food all day. I was in the produce section just to make it worse. And I would read books about nutrition. I was reading more about food and how it's grown and how it interacts with the body. In many ways, it was a good thing because I was totally ignorant about this before. And I don't think anybody should be completely ignorant about health and nutrition. But I was really just obsessed with it. And I would just think and breathe about food and triathlon and fitness all day, every day. I was finishing my last year of school. I was majoring in geography, if you can believe that. Of all the things that I can major in, I'm still interested in world affairs and geography and travel. I still love all that. I don't think it was the best thing to major in, but be that as it may, that's what I was studying at the time, and wouldn't think about that as much as I was thinking about health and fitness. It just kind of took over my mind. So at this point, it was really an unhealthy obsession. My body fat was very low. My weight was very low. I was going from one doctor's appointment to another. I remember getting an MRI. I remember getting x-rays. I remember seeing my primary doctor 4 or 5 times. Nobody really gave me any answers. Fortunately, the bleeding kind of resolved itself. I regained a little bit of my energy. I felt a little better, as I recall, towards the end of that year. But the last year in college was really a struggle because I was constantly thinking about my next meal and what I was going to eat when I should have been focused on my studies and what I was going to, in the projects that I had at school. Fortunately, I found enough focus and determination to get through college and graduate. I think I graduated with the 3.5 with the BS in geography. Don't know how I did it, but I did. But I felt like I was juggling two different things. I was juggling my obsession. I was juggling schoolwork. It was really difficult, actually. And it felt like I didn't have control over my mind. My eating habits continued to change over that last year. I had to pack everything. I remember going to school with this giant cooler full of fruits and vegetables. And the thing about fruits and vegetables, as healthy as they are and as much as I like them, they're not very transportable. You have to cut them, you have to put them in plastic containers, you have to keep it cool somehow. I remember filling the cooler with water, and then I would get home and I had to clean all the containers, and then I had to cut all this fruit again. It was really a hassle, and I would spend easily an hour a day preparing all my food. It was almost like this other chore that I had each day. I couldn't just eat anymore. Everything had to be planned. Everything had to have a purpose. It was just more time that I didn't have. I had that part-time job at Whole Foods, and then I had school, and now I was spending an hour a day just preparing what I was going to eat for the next day. What was so hard about packing a few energy bars or some nuts or some bananas? It should have been much simpler, but I made it too complicated. I graduated that spring. I was 22 years old, and I moved to San Francisco for a while to become an English teacher, and that was kind of fun. And then I moved to Mexico, where I lived for 6 months, and actually had to experiment with some new food, and I didn't have all the amenities that I once had. which made it even harder to eat right. But I managed. And the thing about Mexico is that fruits and vegetables are everywhere and they're cheap, super cheap. You can reach into your pocket, grab some change, and pay and get this huge bag of fruits and vegetables. It's incredible. It's one of the things I loved about living down there. At this point, I was 23 years old, and things kind of stabilized at that point, but not very long. I remember seeing a psychologist, and we talked about some of the beliefs I had about eating. And I remember that last meeting we had. She said, "I still think you have an eating disorder." And I didn't believe her at the time. I thought she was full of crap. But I said, "Well, I think I'm okay. I think I'll be fine." And it was about a month after that I had my first binge. Now, this was something new. I had never done this before. I thought I was normal. I thought I was eating right. What was going on? I remember finding some old energy bars, like protein bars or whatever, from Lifetime Fitness, and they were in my mom's drawer. And I don't think she was eating them. I think she was eating something else at the time. She forgot they were there. And I remember eating like six in a row. At that point, I couldn't stop. Once I did it once, it changed my whole life. I remember thinking, wow, what a rush that was. How incredible was that? And then I raided the freezer and the refrigerator, found some other food that other people weren't eating. And I even binged on Jimmy Dean sausages, like the sandwiches with the sausage and the egg. And this was a guy that had declared that he would never eat red meat again. Now here I was binging on sausage, like biscuits and sausage. It was crazy. I felt like I was outside of my body. I felt like something had come in and hijacked my brain, and it was totally controlling me. Like I had no control anymore. Something was controlling my hands and my mouth. That was a really scary feeling. The feeling that I wasn't really in control anymore. That something else, like an alien or some force, was controlling me. I really wanted to stop, but I didn't know how. And then my behavior got worse. It's like no matter how much I wanted to stop, I couldn't. I progressed to chewing and spitting, so I would take a bunch of food and then I would chew it and then spit it, chew it and spit it. And I would either spit it into like a bag or into the garbage disposal or into the ground or something. My favorite, this is kind of weird, but it was candied pecans. I would buy like a huge bag of candied pecans, chew it, spit it out. And that would be like $15 because candied pecans aren't cheap. Nuts in general aren't cheap. And there would just be this big pile of masticated food on the ground. It was really disgusting. I remember a few times I went to the local grocery store and I literally dived into a dumpster because I knew they were throwing away all of their old baked goods. So grocery stores are really strict about baked goods. They can only keep it for one day, I think. And whatever they don't sell goes into the dumpster. It's kind of a crime if you think about it. All these people who are hungry, and then there's all this discarded food in the dumpster. But I remember jumping in, grabbing it, and I would have like all of this cake and cookies and biscuits and muffins and even sushi. I was taking the old sushi. It's really disgusting to think about that, but yeah, I chewed and spit sushi. Then I would put it in my car, go to an isolated place or a secluded place, chew it, spit it out, chew it, spit it out. I didn't think I was damaging myself. I thought it was kind of like I could have my cake and eat it too. Like I could have the pleasure and the thrill of eating all this food without gaining weight. Speaking of weight, I weighed myself religiously that last year of college. And then I even brought a scale with me to Mexico, which is kind of weird because you can only bring so much stuff. And but I was so obsessed that I brought that scale with me. But when I was 23, I decided I don't need to weigh myself anymore. And it was at that time that I started to chew and spit food. I didn't realize it, but it was slowly gaining weight. You can't completely get rid of all of the calories. So when you chew it, enzymes in your mouth immediately start breaking down the food and you ingest some of it. Not all of it, but you ingest some of it. So chewing and spitting, this lasted about 6 months, and then I stopped the chewing and spitting, and I just started to binge. That's what it progressed to. So by the end of that year, I was feeling different. I was looking different. My fitness declined. My weight went up to about, I don't know, 140, like where it was in high school, but I had gotten down to about 120, which is a pretty lean weight for me. I mean, that's like race day weight, and I was trying to maintain that all the time. So now I was about 140. My self esteem was in the tank. My early career was one failure after another. I was struggling because I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't focus. I was so egocentric. I was always thinking about myself, always thinking about like my own fitness and my own image and my own quality of life. I wasn't really dedicated to anything. I wasn't dedicated to my employer. I wasn't dedicated to my family. It wasn't really. I was just living for myself, really. Anyway, I finally peaked at about 150 pounds. I felt awful because I had let that happen to me. Slowly over that year, I'm 24 now. I decided to go back to school to become a physical therapist, and I remember taking chemistry, and so the classes at school were kind of a diversion, kind of a distraction. I wasn't at home all day. I had things to do. I was in the lab. I was studying. Like it gave me some structure, but I still struggled. And I remember going entire days without eating. I would just drink like the 0 calorie water, like the Sobe water or whatever it was. I don't drink it anymore, so I forget. Or the flavored water that Propel makes, and I would just drink like one after another, just to curb appetite and just to give me some flavor, because I didn't want to eat. But on days that I did eat, I wouldn't eat normally. I would eat 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 calories, way beyond what I needed. So I was going like this, like peaks and valleys. I couldn't just eat steady. It was either I binged or I just ate nothing. During this time, it's when I started to purge. And it wasn't every day because I really hated doing it. I hated vomiting. I hated that feeling. I hated having those red eyes, and I hated the burning sensation in my throat. But if I felt bad enough, I would, because it felt so good to get all of that food out of my stomach. Of course, I was ingesting or absorbing a lot of it, but still, it was that sense of relief. It was that sense of compensation. All of it was out of my body, and I felt clean and pure again. And again, I didn't do this regularly, but it was something that happened on occasion. Once it took me about 2 years to get into PT school. I didn't make it the first year, so I retook some classes, boosted my grades a little bit, and then I got into PT school. Now I'm about 26 years old, and I thought everything would be good at this point. Um, I thought, okay, now I have what I want. I'm moving to Florida. I'm gonna have my own condo, and I'm going to be studying what I really want. I'm really excited about this. I'm going to have my own place, and there's not going to be any temptation. That's not going to be a problem anymore. And I really thought that things would change at this point, and I had a lot of expectations about it. So when I was leaving my family in Virginia, which is where I'm from, and then I moved to Florida, I thought this was going to be the break for me. So, needless to say, my behavior that last summer was not exemplary because I thought everything would change when I went to Florida, and that I would never binge again, I would never purge again. All that abnormal behavior was in the past. It didn't take long for me to realize that that wasn't going to be true. I remember binging that first week I was there, and I thought, oh, it was just, you know, an urge, it'll go away. But things quickly got worse, and I remember binging throughout that first trimester consistently. Things got worse that second term when things were really stressful. I was struggling with some of my classes. I almost failed two classes, and at the school I was going to, um, that was grounds for dismissal. I would have been ejected from the program, and that would have been catastrophic for me. So I think all the stress and just all the anxiety, all the doubt contributed to my behavior. And I was constantly thinking about like flunking out, and then I was worried about my weight and my health on the side. So I had a full-time job, which was school. PT school is very demanding. There's a lot to learn. I was managing that with this eating disorder, and it was just overwhelming. Fortunately, I passed that first year of PT school. One thing I did in my it was my third term. It was the summer. I did a 3 day fast. And I remember thinking how empowered I felt. I never done that. At least I don't think I had done that. And then I did a 5 day fast, and then I just repeated multiple 5 day fasts. And I think I went from 75 kilos down to 55 kilos just over the course of a summer. But I was doing it in a very unhealthy and destructive way. By the way, that's like 40, 45 pounds or something if you're using US uh, like English units. But it was a lot of weight, and people noticed. And I felt really good in that sense, but I knew that I had cheated in a way, that I wasn't doing it in a sustainable method. So that fall, this is my second year of PT school, binging came back with a vengeance, which was very predictable looking back. I should have seen that one coming. And I regained all the weight. Now I felt horrible. I had lost it. Now I had regained it. I felt like a total failure. Now I was back to 74, 75. I think the highest I ever weighed ever was like 78, 79 kilos, which is a lot for my frame. I'm only 5 feet 4 inches, about 1.63 meters. It's not that tall. So 78, 79 was big. I couldn't run, I couldn't swim. I never wanted to take off my shirt. I rejected several social events because I was embarrassed about my image. There were several fitness competitions, not fitness competitions, but they were like Tough Mudders, that kind of event. And I declined because I was out of shape. The third year of PT school was somewhat better, but still, I remember when I was on my internships down in Florida, I binged consistently just every week. I was eating like 30, 35,000 calories a week. I don't know why, because neither of my internships were really stressful. I actually enjoyed them. I think the problem was I wasn't in school. I didn't have that structure anymore. So I just had all this free time. And what did I do with it? I decided to binge. I was going to Whole Foods every week. I mean, not every week, like every night. I went to fast food, which I hadn't eaten in 8 or 9 years. So this was something new too, because I had some money from my previous job, and I used that to feed myself too much. I graduated from PT school when I was 29 years old. It's still one of the best days of my life because I had done it, and it was very relieving. I saw my family, they came and celebrated my graduation. And then I spent that summer preparing for the board exam. I took it once, I failed it, and then I retook it and I passed. But binging was just as bad that summer when I had nothing to do and I didn't have school, I didn't have a job. It was a very unique time in my life, but there was also a lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt. I was constantly thinking, what if I don't pass this board exam? Because PT school is expensive. It was $85,000, I think, and that doesn't include the interview process, all the books that I bought, the living expenses, the opportunity cost. It was a massive expense, and I thought, what if this doesn't work? What's my option? Or what's my other option, I mean. Fortunately, I passed that second time. This is July, August of 2015. And I thought, okay, now I'm a professional. Now I'm spending my own money. Now I have a job. I have everything I want. I'm going to go travel as a physical therapist. I've reached my goal. It won't be a problem anymore. But in fact, things only got worse. And it's like, how can things get worse now? Because now I had all this disposable income. Now I was spending it on fast food consistently. I remember going to Sonic like 5 or 6 times a week to get one of those big like Sonic blasts. You know, the ice cream with the bits of candy inside it. That was like my thing. I just loved it so much. I remember going to Panda Express and Chili's and just getting fast food 2 or 3 times a day, literally. So I was spending $500-600 a month just feeding myself, which is insane for one person, one single person. And this went on for the first 2 years as a professional physical therapist, I thought it was ironic because I was teaching people how to be healthy and how to move better and how to live healthy lifestyles. And then on the side, I was binging, usually alone, always at night, almost never during the morning. But people didn't know that I was living this secret life. And so I had this cognitive dissonance in my head. Like, I'm supposed to be promoting a healthy lifestyle, but here I am binging, purging, overeating on the side, and just living this really uh, degenerate lifestyle in a way. Nobody ever knew it. I never wanted to tell them. I never told anybody. Well, I take that back. I think I told one or two friends who weren't living in the area, and I was just kind of looking for some support. I don't know whatever happened to that, but I never told any of my classmates, and I never told my family. Never told anybody in my network because I was too ashamed, and I didn't feel like there was anything they could do about it. Finally, after about a couple years of working in the field, I realized I had to do something different. I did eventually recover. I don't overeat. I don't binge. I don't overexercise. I don't take laxatives. I don't take diet pills. I don't do any of that anymore. I finally did recover, so there was a happy ending, but I just wanted to share my story and where I come from. And that's why I'm on this personal mission to help others who have the same challenges and the same struggles. Doesn't matter how long you've been struggling, doesn't matter how long you've had eating disorders, maybe since you were a kid, I don't know. I feel like everybody can recover with the right training and the right support and the right mindset. So that's my mission and that's my story and that's my background. And I feel like I need to broadcast that to the world. I've only told this to a few individuals. I have never told it to a mass audience like this. So I hope you find some value in this story. I hope parts of this story resonate with you. In future videos, I will discuss some of the principles that I learned on the way and some of the bad thoughts that I had. It was really some errant thoughts and beliefs that I had that kept me doing that behavior for so many years. It shouldn't have taken me that long to recover, but I'll tell you why it took me so long to recover and why recovery shouldn't take that long. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in future videos. Bye, guys.